Arsenal have a bruising run of fixtures coming up, including Liverpool, Manchester City and Newcastle. So Arsenal are preparing for it in the only way that they know how. They're talking about injuries, getting injury updates, and we're looking to buy a left back. This is Arsenal Unfiltered. Let's get started. Yes, hello and welcome back to Arsenal Unfiltered, your 3 times a week dose of Arsenal coverage with me, your host Mark, wherever you are in the world. I hope you're well. This podcast is for you if you love everything Arsenal, you want to hear my opinion on everything that's going on, match reviews, news, anything that's happening. You want to be here with me at Arsenal Unfiltered. So if you are new or if you are a returning listener, welcome, and make sure you hit that follow button wherever you get your podcasts from. Today, I'm going to be talking about the injury updates as it pertains to some of our key players. And to be honest, I can't believe I'm already having to do this. It's the 26th of August as we sit here and speak and record. I can't believe I'm already having another chat about injuries. It feels rubbish. Thankfully, we've still got the memories of that 5-0 victory against Leeds to keep us going and the anticipation of a showdown against Liverpool. But we will be talking injury updates because there are some positive bits of news after the Leeds game. We've had some really good reports coming out that maybe, it depends where you stand on it. You might still feel that it's rubbish, or you might be a bit happier because it's not as bad as first seems. But then we are going to talk Piero Hincapie. I'm not sure if I'm getting that right, so I apologise. But Piero Hincapie is a player we have been really heavily linked with over the last couple of days, a left back come centre back playing for Bayer Leverkusen. So we're going to be talking all about him and where he might fit into this team, and personally why I think it's a really, really weird and strange move that I don't really understand us exploring. But I will come on to that. First, the injury updates. Let's get started on those. So yes, injury updates. We obviously lost Bukayo Saka and Martin Odegaard in that Leeds game, but we have 6 players right now on the in the injury room. I can't believe that. Obviously, let's just quickly list those. Obviously, Bukayo Saka and Martin Odegaard are 2 of those players. We lost Kai Havertz and Ben White in the first game of the season, and we don't really know when we lost Christian Norgard, presumably in training, and Gabriel Jesus, obviously last year, with his ACL injury. So let's start with that man, Gabriel Jesus. He has released an Instagram video kind of saying, thank goodness I'm back. It's been a very, very long, difficult road over the last 7 months where he's been working hard. You know, he got injured in January. It's August now, so we are only just seeing images of him, one on the pitch, but he's actually working with the ball, boots on, so that's good. It's not just running on grass, as is kind of a key step in the ACL recovery. He is with the ball at his feet, working on what looks like an individual plan, but at Arsenal, not away from the club. He is there. So that's a really positive bit of news. He is still going to be, I obviously don't know where he's at, but, if that's the first time he's playing with the ball, he's still going to be probably a couple of months away. We've seen ACL injuries before. We kind of know that rough timeline. As soon as you start working with the ball, you are over the majority of it. But it is the next steps that are so key. So Gabriel Jesus looks to be on his way back. We may see him, I guess, before Christmas, sort of late November time, perhaps. That might be a good trajectory for him. Maybe even early November. We just don't know. But in that kind of time period, and look, it's great news. Yes, we've added Victor Gyökeres, Madueke, Eberechi Eze up front. Gabriel Jesus is still a really, really good player, and he is a player who I personally don't think will be competing for a starting place anymore. I think Mikel Arteta has probably gotten to the point where he's said, okay, enough is enough with these injuries. We've tried, but if you can't stay fit, that's it. However, I'm not going to complain if he is our option for a League Cup game or the odd Champions League game or even just off the bench. We can't guarantee that Kai and Gyökeres are going to be fit. So to have someone like Gabriel Jesus as your third choice, which, when you consider when he came in and how good he was for us, it feels incredible to say that he would ever be third choice at Arsenal. To have him there, it's nice. He'll probably go in January or he might go in next summer, as long as we can prove some of his fitness since the recovery. So, games will be crucial for getting some value out of him. And getting his wages off the books, I guess, is another one. But, look, it's good to see him back. I like him as a player. I'm really happy that he's happy. It was a positive message he put out on Instagram. There is very little news about Christian Norgard, Ben White, and Kai Havertz. We know that Kai obviously got injured in the Manchester United game, and Charles Watts was reporting on his podcast that actually Arsenal are kind of waiting and seeing with this one. They don't want to act too early on the knee. I think the initial reports were reports of swelling, reports of kind of damage around the knee. They don't know specifically what went wrong, and I imagine they're waiting a little while for maybe them to reduce some of the swelling, to bring that swelling down so they can have a proper good look before they pull the trigger on any treatment plan, any discussion. So that feels to be the direction of travel with Kai Havertz, so it's a wait and see there. It might be a wait and see with Martin Odegaard as well, because The Athletic have reported that both the scans on Bukayo Saka and Martin Odegaard are better than first feared, which is obviously wonderful. I think looking at the two injuries in the game, when Odegaard went down, I said this in the review podcast, I was disappointed, but it was one of those ones where I'm like, okay, he's landed very awkwardly on his shoulder. I'm not sure that is it's going to be a painful one, but I'm not sure it's, a season ender or a long time out. When you see a knee buckle or a player pull up with no one around them, you worry a little bit more, don't you? They're the ones that are kind of alert in our brains, given what we know about injuries and our history with injuries. Martin Odegaard clearly took a very big bang as he landed. It was natural for that to potentially hurt and him not be able to deal with that. I have no idea if he could be back for Anfield, but I would love him to be back. I think if he's back, we won't feel the loss of Bukayo Saka quite so much. We could play Madueke on the right, Eze on the left, and Odegaard through the middle. And in that sense, we wouldn't have to draft in Ethan Nwaneri to play that position or Mikel Merino, who both really high quality players who I think will add loads to this team over this season. And I really like both of them as players, but they're not quite Martin Odegaard. And they give us the option to play Madueke and Eze on the flanks. So that's positive, I guess, from an Odegaard point of view, that the scan isn't as bad as first feared. Bukayo Saka, this is the one where I think people will fall either side of the coin. They will either be relieved that this hamstring strain is not longer, or they will go, yeah, but he's still strained another hamstring. Like, what are we doing here? What's going on? The BBC, via Sami Mokbel, are reporting that Bukayo Saka could be out for 3 to 4 weeks. So if you are really kind of glass half empty and you're going to say the full 4 weeks, that means that Bukayo Saka will obviously miss the Liverpool game. He will miss the Nottingham Forest game. Well, sorry, I should say he'll miss the Liverpool game, the whole international break, the Nottingham Forest game, and probably the Manchester City game, maybe on the bench for that, and should be fit enough to return for the Newcastle tie at the end of September. So that's positive in the sense that it's not a huge strain. It's not going to be surgery like it was last year, and he's not going to be out for a long time. I do understand if you are concerned about second game of the season. Saka has done his other hamstring now. It's a minor strain, of course. It's not the grade 3 needs surgery kind of vibe. Has the damage been done already? We've brought Madueke, we've brought Eze, we've brought all these players to reinforce our squad and make sure that we don't pick up these injuries. But I said this in the summer, and I think this kind of injury and this kind of period that we've had reinforces my belief in this. I think the damage has been done from overplaying last season, and I think the players are still not quite back to full fitness. Yes, you can bring players in to pick up the load now for this season, but no one was doing that last season. So Bukayo Saka got injured, he came back and had to play a lot of games immediately. He got a lot of football as soon as he came back. There's still going to be damage there. There's still going to be, not necessarily on his one hamstring, but there's still going to be levels of overload in there. Yes, he's had the summer off, of course, but these things don't resolve in a few months. If you've been chronically overplayed and chronically overworked, It's something that takes a long time, and we may have just not got very lucky here in the sense that he has already picked up another injury. Madueke can step in, take over that time. Ethan can get some time out on the right as well, of course. So look, I think we have to be delighted that Bukayo Saka and Martin Odegaard are not out for a long time, because we don't want a repeat of last season. But it is concerning that we're already staring down 6 injured players. I'm going to say 5, because Gabriel Jesus was hurt last year. 5 injuries already. And I think we really potentially need to be looking at what we're doing in the gym with the S&C team. You know, that may be the next evolution of this. We've brought in the reinforcements. That's great, but you don't want to have to play your reinforcements every single game. That's why they're backups. Okay, I'm going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk about Piero Hincapie and discuss why I think it's a really strange transfer rumour. Back in a sec. Sorry for interrupting everyone, but I am on a mission and I need your help. I'm trying to get Arsenal Unfiltered into the ears of as many people as possible. And the best way that you can help me do that is by going and leaving a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts at. That really, really helps me grow the podcast and allows more people to hear the Arsenal Unfiltered coverage 3 times a week. So if you would be so kind to go and leave a review wherever you get your podcast from, I would really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Hello and welcome back to this episode of Arsenal Unfiltered. In the first half, we discussed all the injury goings-ons? Not sure that works, but everything that's going on with the injuries. Some new updates, the positive news that Odegaard and Saka are probably not going to be out for as long as we first feared. Now we're going to talk about Piero Hincapie. I'm going to hold my hands up. I don't know a lot about this player. You know, so a little bit of research gives me the vibe that he is a left-footed defender, centre-back, left-back, can kind of do that role. Some people who watch the Bundesliga a lot have reported that this guy is a really aggressive, front-footed defender, very much maybe in the role of a Gabriel, in the sense that he's left-footed, left-sided. He's got a little bit of Kivior around him that he can get out into that left-back spot. And I've heard, people who watch the Bundesliga a lot talk about this guy and how tactically aware he is. He played in that back 3 system under Xabi Alonso, and how he could kind of move out and cover different zones of the pitch when the fullbacks Grimaldo and Frimpong were bombing on. So he's a really interesting player, I should say. It's a strange one for me for Arsenal, though, because when you look at where this lad would play in our system, he's clearly not going to come in and usurp Gabriel Magalhaes. That guy is the best of the best, in my opinion, in terms of left-sided defenders. So Gabriel is going to keep his position. So this guy is coming in to be a Jakub Kivior. Maybe a slightly better Jakub Kivior. And I really don't want to talk too much about this guy's quality. Like I say, I've not really watched him. I've seen a few clips, but you don't get a sense, especially in defence. You don't get a sense of what a player's like until you sit down and watch 90 minutes of him, watch a couple of games and see what's his timing like, what's his positioning like, what's his sense for danger like. You really have to watch a few games of a defender to get that. But why I think this is a very strange transfer, and I'm going to take out, quality versus quality, is that we do have Jakub Kivior. And when you look at the numbers, I find it really strange. So it's reported that Hincapie, I'm really going to struggle with that, apologies, has a €60 million release clause, so about £52 million, which is not an unforeseeable sum of money for Arsenal. Arsenal have done deals well over that this year. Eze and Gyökeres both come in over that. So Madueke is around there as well. So Arsenal, it's not a realm that Arsenal aren't used to operating in, but it is a first team / contending for the first team kind of fee. And I must admit, I don't see any player contending with Gabriel. His partnership with Saliba is so locked down. To break that up for any player would be bizarre. I don't see that happening. So it's a lot of money. Now, granted, apparently Arsenal are looking to do a deal well under the release clause. So they are looking to kind of come in, negotiate, get that down and try and bring that fee down so that they can sign this player. And it also seems to be contingent on departures. This is something that's been reported as well. Porto are well in for Jakub Kivior. They are well in for him. They started to kind of look at him earlier in the window and there was a couple of bids rejected. We know that for a fact. That's been well reported, well documented. It seems that they're back in and want to pay a bit more money. But it's rumoured at around 20 to 25 million. Maybe it will stretch up to 30, but it's nowhere near the 60 million that we're talking for Hincapie. And I also think, there's no movement on Zinchenko as well. So it's not like we're really looking at, we're creating a big gap in the squad and we're getting lots of money in. Actually, these players are already, Zinchenko is definitely surplus to the squad. And Kivior's very settled. Very settled. He seems to be happy with the role that he's got. There has been no reports of Jakub Kiwior going, you know what, I've got to move. I guess if Jakub Kiwior is having that conversation with, the likes of Andrea Berta, with the likes of Mikel Arteta behind the scenes, then it's a different question, isn't it? We're looking to replace him, and maybe I can see it a little bit more. But because we haven't got that, I don't quite get it. Yes, he might be an upgrade in quality on the Jakub Kiwior, and that's fair. But is it a big enough upgrade? Is it a position, second centre back, where you want to be spending that larger amount of money? When you look just next to him on the depth chart, we've got Christian Mosquera, who's come in for £13 million, and yes, he's played very few games, but he's really impressed in those games. He's looked really good. Everyone's liked him. That's a brilliant market opportunity at £13 million for a young player to get him in. Why are we looking at £60 million, just one position left? 60 million euros, I should say. One position left. When we already have Jakub Kiwior, who we spent far less on that on, and I don't think he's ever let us down when he's come on. So for me, I wouldn't be doing this deal because I can't make the maths and the transfer fees add up in my head. Even if we say we get 25 million for Jakub Kiwior and we manage to do a deal for Hincapie at, let's say, 40 million pounds, there's a 15 million pound gap there. I don't quite get it. I don't quite get it at all. Why would you unsettle a player? I shouldn't say unsettle a player. Unsettle a kind of depth chart or, a squad harmony kind of position where Jakub Kiwior really knows his role, is happy in the squad, people seem to like him, the players seem to like him. Why would you unsettle that for a player who is a bit more of a risk, is an unknown, as all new signings are, and costs you more money and takes money out of, potential young player signings? I'm amazed that Arsenal are even being linked with another transfer in because the squad feels so bloated. Even with, having some sales go through of Zinchenko, maybe Nelson, Lokonga, I would still say, yeah, we're full. So I don't really understand why you would go in to try and replace a player that's already settled. I can't see us adding to that backline group. It's very odd for me, and I do wonder if Arsenal are just doing some due diligence in the background in case they get a great offer for Jakub Kiwior. And actually, this is being reported as they're working just under the €60 million release clause, but actually Arsenal's position is that's our top line figure, and it might be the exact same as Jakub Kiwior. I don't know, but for me, I can't make the maths and the sums add up at the moment. I can't understand if it is a move to kind of change up the personnel, even if the numbers match up. I can't understand upsetting the kind of rhythm of that area of the pitch. So for me, obviously, if Arsenal sign him, I will support him. I will be his biggest fan, and I'm really interested to maybe look into him a little bit more and see what he's like as a player. But right now, it's not making too much sense. Okay, guys, I'm going to leave it there. That was the injury updates. Obviously, injury updates and a transfer update, I should say. Obviously, Liverpool coming up at the weekend. Everyone's nervous. Everyone's excited. I will be doing the match preview podcast on Thursday. Hopefully, we get some good news in the pre-match press conference from Arteta, talking about Odegaard, who's going to be fit. Hopefully, we'll see Norgard on the bench. I think we could use him in the final stages of this game against Liverpool. And yeah, it's all very exciting. We're coming towards the end of the transfer window. I'm going to be glad when that's done. It's a lot of excitement, a lot of positives, but also a lot of stress. So yeah, really excited for everything to be concluded with the transfer window, and I will bring you the Liverpool preview this week. If you like this episode, guys, please make sure you go and follow, as I said at the start, and leave a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts from. It helps other people find Arsenal Unfiltered so that we can continue to grow as a podcast, and I would really, really appreciate that. All that's left to say is thank you for following, thank you for listening, and I will speak to you very, very soon.